Let's go ahead and get to Lance Reisland on the fan hotline, cleveland.com. Hey, Coach, welcome to the show.
Hello, Coach.
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Titus Leo, is that an elite name or no?
I think Titus puts it over the top. I'm not big on the Leo, but Titus I like. Maybe like a Maximus, like a Titus Maximus. But I go with Titus. That's pretty solid.
That's not Titus Maximus. Sounds like he's doing some film work in Vegas.
Maximus. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Easy there.
Not invited to the AVNs. I don't know who is.
So, Coach, the Browns quarterback depth chart is Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. Should that still be the quarterback depth chart this late into the whole thing?
Well, I would say until Wednesday and Thursday and Saturday are over, I would say yes, just because it tells me at least there was a plan, right? And for me, it's not about if we like the plan, if there was like a knee-jerk reaction. Shedeur played very well last week, and I think they're going to give, whether we like it or not, I think Dillon's going to get a chance. I still think Dillon can do some really good things. However, he's got to improve his accuracy. And when you talk about football, you talk about taking advantage of the situation. Shedeur did that last week. So until they get, like I said, I know there's a plan here because of the depth chart. I'll be interested to see, Sunday coming into next Monday, what that is, if people all play well or if people don't play well, if that changes. But as of right now, I'm not surprised it is what it is.
So you mentioned Dillon's accuracy issues. What else have you seen that has been a struggle for Dillon Gabriel?
Well, the easiest thing for everybody is everybody talks about a tight, and I have seen some issues in terms of when he's in the pocket and he's processing a little bit too long. So one of his advantages that he's really good at, he's got to get the ball out of his hands quickly, because once that defensive line gets between 1 and 3 yards into the backfield, it's really hard for him to see, and that's just the fact of it. Now, he's done a good job of moving the pocket, moving his feet, but there's been a number of things, right? And it obviously comes to processing his height. It's not all his height, but he's just been accurate, whether it's not the timing with the tight ends or receivers. He's just had a really tough couple days. And I've said this before, he's doing a lot of things right except the result. And that's the only thing that matters. However, without the process, I think it's going to be, it would be hard for him to get the result. But right now, the bottom line is he's going to the right spots. He's just not really accurate. So that's going to have to change if he wants to continue being in this battle, because that's where, their footwork is all, like yesterday morning was the best practice they had as a group without question. Their footwork was good, their fundamentals, their balance, all of them. But the accuracy is when it's going to come down to, and accuracy against good people, which they're going to see here in the next couple of days.
Lance, it looks like Kenny Pickett is a long shot to do anything significant this week. So we do have Browns and Eagles coming up this weekend. What does Dillon Gabriel have to show to maybe push back on some of the perceived momentum with Shador Sanders coming off the start that he had?
Well, let's make no mistake. He had a great start, and he did everything in terms of, so at least you have to see the operation, right? You have to see in and out of the huddle. You have to see up to the line of scrimmage. You have to see great tempo, great pace, making sure your team is lined up right, making sure that your guys aren't dropping off sides, making sure you're using proper snap counts, getting your guys into the good run game, good pass game, and just kind of that fluidity, right? The idea of that it looks smooth out there. That would be the initial step. Then he's got to make some throws. Shedeur did a really nice job of making some throws in pressure, doing what he does best, accuracy in the red zone. He did a really nice job of processing on that second touchdown to Caden Davis. So not only does I think the expectations should have been higher for Shedeur, and I still think they should be as high, if not higher, for Dillon Gabriel. You have to go out, you have to do all that stuff that you're supposed to do as a pro, and then make some plays, because whether he had some good plays, bad plays, Shedeur made some plays, and that gives you a chance to win the game. So obviously the operation has to be really, really smooth, Nick, but he's got to make some plays down the field, stretching that defense of the Eagles.
All right, so what did you love about Shedeur on Friday night? What was your favorite part? The elite throws, what did you see?
Well, I would say the first touchdown pass I really like, because that tells me Kevin Stefanski is kind of building into his offense, right? That was a basic level concept. That's their base bread and butter play. They're going to fake the zone one way, and they're going to throw the other side with a high, low, and medium. He picked the high, great throw. The one I really liked was the second touchdown pass where he slid to his right, allowed Marshall to pick up pass protection. That was actually a pass to the left that was both covered, called stick route, and then he worked back to the other side, which was another combination route, and actually got to his fourth guy in his progression. So that tells you not only is he moving his feet, not only is he, understanding what he's seeing, but he's getting through his whole progression. So for me, that was like the next step. Obviously I think he can process really well, but that was like it in action, right? You saw him go from 1 to 4, move his feet, and then again, his issues come when he's not balanced and he doesn't transfer his weight. He moved to his right, let the pass protection, and threw an absolute dart to Caden Davis. So that was my favorite throw. Obviously, the operation, all that stuff was great, but I thought some of his throws, especially that one, was really, really good.
All right, Lance, obviously we're about halfway through the preseason here with the preseason game number 2 coming up on Saturday in Philly. I will ask you, we talked a lot about quarterbacks. What are the names that have impressed you and stood out the most from the start of camp till through today?
Well, I would say the guy who's going to be 2 rookies, Mason Graham and Schlesinger, are going to be really, really good football players. Schlesinger is way beyond his years. I thought Mason Graham, because of his wrestling background and his toughness and being a 2-gapper at Michigan with his athleticism, I knew he was going to be really good, especially when the pads go on, because he likes the contact, the balance, and things like that. Schlesinger is a guy who's always around the ball, and I was just watching him before I left for Philly today. He does a really great job of moving forward and using his hands, and he just has a knack and an instinct for the football. I think Denzel Ward has been elite at corner. I've watched him for 3 years, and this year he's been even better. I think the offensive line is going to be better, and the reason why is because they're going back to their scheme. I looked for, obviously, driving to Philly, seeing Batonio and Teller versus Davis and Carter is worth the price of admission tomorrow. So that's what you want to kind of see. Can they match up that toughness up front? And then that whole defensive line, obviously we know about the guys, but like Malik Collins and, Shelby Harris, some of these backup guys, they got some pretty good depth on the defensive line. I'm interested to see how they do against the Maliotas and the Lane Johnsons, next couple of days, because that's where it's going to be, in my opinion, next couple of days, is that upfront battle on both sides of the ball. There's some grown men going at it here in the next 48 hours.
Coach, I want to ask you about Mason Graham, because you touched on him a little bit there. PFF absolutely hated his performance on Friday night. They ranked him 26th out of 30 defenders for the Browns. The play that's gone very viral is Robert Hunt, the right guard, basically just pushing him back, what turned out to be 5 yards or so before Mason just falls down. What they don't show you is the very next play where it seemed like Mason got that remedied and had a really nice showing. But how do you balance that out? Because it seemed like you were pretty high on him. I left thinking he had a pretty solid night overall, but PFF doesn't think so. And the one big play with Robert Hunt,
way too high, and Hunt got underneath him and just pinned him. And that happens in football. Now, what I like about him is he came back. He's going to have to realize that even though he's, in college at 320 in his athleticism, he can kind of do what he wanted, even when he's playing elite teams. Now he can't do that. These are grown men in their 30s who are going to control, or late 20s, early 30s who are strong. So he's going to have to be fundamentally sound with his hands, his leverage, and how he uses that balance. And you can see that as the game goes along. The thing that's going to help him is that obviously his footwork and his ability to use his hands. But he has to do that every time. And that was, for me, that was just a classic rookie mistake where I'm just going to get off the ball. I'm not going to be very fundamentally sound. And you see what happens in the NFL. If you're not fundamentally sound, they drive you off the football. Now, PFF is interesting because, for me, I'm not always a huge believer in PFF because I don't know if Mason Graham's going to be a guy that has a ton of stats, but he's going to be a guy that's really hard to block and really a pain in the butt for an offensive coordinator, in my opinion. We'll see moving forward. I can't wait to watch him tomorrow against those interior guys from the Eagles because he's going to get as good a look as he's going to get all year.
All right, we're going to make the headline. Lance Reisland says, bleep PFF.
Yes, take that, PFF.
And so, listen, if Palazzolo or any of those guys come after you, we weren't here.
And ball coach thinks PFF is a load of, well, you know what.
Yeah, it says real football guys know the truth. Coach, great stuff as always, buddy. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Lance Reisland there, cleveland.com again. He is starting his weekly with us. He will be joining us every single week throughout football season. He'll be a part of the pregame show with JP as well on Sundays, leading up to the big games as well.